Good day, everyone. My name is James Popoola, and we have
Ruth Snyder joining from a very snowy Alberta, Canada.
It's nice to have you. I'm super glad to host you today. Thank you so much for honoring my invitation, Ruth, and for everyone joining across the globe. We are happy to have you all, and we are super glad because we know this is going to be an impactful one. This was actually a journey I had, which helped me to put forward my first book in 2023, and sincerely, people gave comments on how I was able to put forward such an amazing book. Why? Because that was my first time, and it was exactly as a pro. And you won't actually leave this place today and tomorrow without getting the same value which I got from Roots. So I deemed it fit, and I was like, oh, let's have conversation about this and let's inspire others to do the same. So if you're joining us, please do well to please put your name, the city you're joining from, and let us know what you expect. We'll be glad to hear from you. Kindly introduce yourself, and we'll be glad to read out the location. Please let us know where you're joining us from, Moyi. Let us know where you're joining us from, Vari. Let us know where you're joining us from, Ayomide. Ayomide is from Lagos, Nigeria. Wow, how is the city of Lagos today? So it's nice to have you, Ayomide. So let's keep having it. Let's keep having it. We are happy to have you here today, and we hope that this is going to be an amazing session for you. I'm very sure that you're going to be leaving this masterclass. You're going to be living blessed, and you're going to have a lot. I mean, a lot. Yeah, Moyi Oluwa. Thanks for joining from Kwara State. That's the state of harmony. Wow. Yes, we are glad to have you. Please do well to invite your friends, do well to tell them to come. We are happy to have them. Thank you so much. Would we welcoming more people as we prepare to kickstart the process? I will look forward to sharing the ideas, sharing everything with you. Do well to please engage, go on Twitter and make a post, tweet, and let others know that we've started. We are happy to have you. Hi, Barry. We're happy to have you from USA. You're welcome. Wow, great, great, great. We're happy to have you here today. Please, others can also do well to drop where they are joining us from. So today, I'm sure you're aware of why we're here. We're talking about the masterclass where you're going to know how you can publish like a pro. Just imagine you holding a copy of your published book. Like that feels so amazing. That feels so awesome. For me, that was how I felt holding a copy of my book. I was like, wow, how did I manage to cross this? And the topic was actually crossing limits. And you know what? It was really a limit crossed because I couldn't imagine myself crossing such limits. Why? Because back in Africa, I just observed that quite a number of people who have gone through the process do not have the time, or they are not willing to share their knowledge. So I went on Twitter and I met Ruth, and I was so actually I was kind of I was disturbed by the word auto midwife. And then I know a midwife gives birth and delivers a child, like whenever there is this childbearing process. So that means there's also someone who can help me to birth my bestseller. And then I met Ruth. And sincerely, since we had a conversation, since I had my first book, it's been from inspiration to another inspiration. And the book has really given me a lot of opportunity to interact with people, speak on platforms, gain financial freedom, as well as also getting to help others in my own little way. So before we move on, I would like us to hear from Ruth, who is actually my special guest and my co-host for this masterclass. Welcome to the Publish Like a Pro Masterclass Day 1. We are happy to have you here, and over to you, Ruth.
Well, thank you, James. It's my privilege to be here today. I'll just share a little bit about my story. I was born in Michigan in the United States, but my parents took me to Africa, to South Africa, when I was only 6 weeks old. And I spent the first 12 years of my life in Africa, actually, in South Africa and Botswana. My dad was a printer. He worked on getting literature available in different languages. And he also helped plant a church in Botswana. One day when he was working in the print shop, a fellow came that was working in the diamond mines, and he said, I want somebody to come and tell our people about Jesus. And so that's what my parents did. We moved to Botswana, and I also spent 1 year in Zimbabwe at school. God used that time to really confirm in my heart that I was a writer, but I didn't take that seriously until after I had children and wanted to tell some of their stories. My children have some special needs. And I saw a Canada-wide writing contest, and so I entered that. And it was one of those, I don't know if you are like I am. I sometimes argue with God. And I know that I shouldn't, because God knows what's very best for all of us, and he has good plans for us. And I felt that I should write, but I was arguing with him. Anyway, I sent in the submission to the contest, and I kind of said, well, I did what you told me to do, now leave me alone. Bit of a rebel. And I'm thankful for God's patience with me, because a few weeks later, I received information that I had won first place in the contest, and that started my journey of learning to write better, of learning how to get a book published, and working with a traditional publisher first, and then learning to self-publish. And then when people saw what I was doing, they started asking me to help them. So I met James about I guess just over a year ago. We met on Twitter.
Yes.
He responded to, I had offered a free book, and he responded to that. And then he asked if we could chat. And so we chatted, and he asked for help with his book. And by July, it was published. So congratulations, James. You are an action taker, and we hope everybody here is an action taker. So back to you, James.
All right. So thank you so much for that introduction. My name is James Popoola. I'm Nigerian. I'm based in Lagos. However, I'm out of Lagos. I'm currently just, and I'm a recent graduate. So I actually like writing, and I got inspired when I was in secondary school. However, my writings were literally for me to write in a book and keep it. Then when I got to uni, I was writing as a contributor, as a columnist, and then the website actually is no longer functioning, and then that hurt me. And then in 2022, I actually decided that I was going to write my first book and publish. Why? Because there was a lot of noise about Amazon KDP, publish and get money and all. And which for me was a wrong reason for even starting. So I started it, but I'm happy I didn't complete such project. Why? Because it wasn't an area I was really interested in, and that was not even the best time for me. And it wouldn't have been the best best publication, because then it was due to the noise here and there. So fast forward to 2023, last year, January, during my vacation in my uncle's place in Accra, I was in the kitchen and a thought just came, crossing limits. And I was like, what is this all about? Sometimes I ignore, but at this time it was not easy for me to say no. So I just wrote it down. But I was curious to question myself, like, why the S after the limits? So I was kind of like, why should crossing have additional S behind the limits? Is there more than one limit? So I just wrote it down. And in February, I was on Twitter and I saw a handle and I was like, oh wow, let me try. Then I got a free gift. Then I started with the free gift. Then I booked the next available time. And the next available time was actually an amazing time. However, I was undergoing my final year project. And during this process, that I was doing my final year project, which I actually do not have enough time. But I later realized that if it is important, you're going to create a time for it. So, and she gave a constant reminder, 24 hours reminder, 10 hours reminder, 3 hours reminder. And for me, I really cherish that, because for you to give me such reminder, it shows the level to which you have put in a lot of work. So I had no option. I had to just show up. And when I showed up without knowing what exactly I wanted. I showed up to gain clarity. I showed up to get guide from someone who has done what I need to do over and over again. She's done it several times and she's helped over hundreds of people. And I was like, oh, let me see how it goes. And the call was actually a catalyst for whatever you're seeing about my publication and all. Coincidentally, after the call, when we're talking about, okay, so how do I go about the publishing? Normally, I should be thinking about, oh, what's the exchange rate like, dollar, naira, and all. And then my mentor just told me, James, make sure that you do not put forward your book without going through the right person who has done it before and who has the experience. So that automatically informed me that I really need to put in the true and the real work. So I shared my profile with my mentor, and my mentor was like, wow, I've checked this person's profile, is worth it. Just go ahead and work with her. And sincerely, working with Ruth was really an awesome experience because it helped me, and I was actually able to put forward my first book. And during the process, I had different ideas, which I'm still building and working on them day by day. So this is what I'd like to tell you. And in summary, I would just like to tell you that writing your book is actually possible, and you can go ahead and look for people who have done it before. Ruth and I, we are ready to support you. We are ready to ensure that you accomplish that great thing which you have. Beyond the financial increase that you're going to have in writing, you're also going to have fulfillment, reaching out to lives. There are people who have probably a season where they are depressed, but due to the fact that they read your book, you've impacted their life. Don't be overambitious. However, you can have a dream that can impact the life of people across the globe, one person at a time. Thank you so much, Ruth. And next slide.
All right, so I'm going to unpin James and I will jump
All
back
right.
in.
All right, thank you.
All right, so this is the first time James and I have tried leading a session together. So we all will figure it out as we go. Today,
yes.
So before I get started on what I wanted to share with you, I put a question in the chat and I would like to hear from each of you. What topics do you want to learn about? Why are you here? What are your goals? What questions do you have? We want to make sure that we answer your questions. We want to make sure that everything that we share is helpful for you. So let us know what you're here for and what you're looking for, please. If you want to unmute, you can go ahead and just speak it out. Otherwise, you can put it in the chat.
Hey, it's Val from North Carolina. I'm having
Hi, Val.
problems with my computer, so I'm on my smartphone.
No problem.
Um,
Glad you're here.
yeah, I I met Ruth a couple months ago, and we just got to know each other on a little better basis. And God has been speaking to me forever to get my works published as a vehicle to help others process life. In addition, children lit illustrated books. So I'm looking for a real self-paced, driven, but partner in publishing to help guide me for my first books. And I think that's, definitely going to be Ruth. So I'm
Yes.
I'm looking to step up my knowledge base, unlock all the hidden costs that are there. And I've done a whole lot of research, and God's protected me from not giving my stuff away to certain publishers. So I'm looking for my own progress in that base knowledge, and in turn pay it forward.
Thanks for sharing, Valerie. I'm glad that you came.
Thank you.
All right, so if you have the chat open, you'll see that you'll have to help me pronounce your names because I don't know you and I don't know how to pronounce your names. I can guess.
Yeah.
Maybe James, you can help.
All right. So that's from Hayomide. So AY for short. Yes. So you can also call AY.
Thank you, AY, for having mercy on me. So AY says she wants to learn, I don't know. I want to learn how to write a compelling story that has power to attract and retain my readers. Also want to know how to edit and publish my book. Also want to know how to translate my ideas to content. What kind of content are you thinking of? Can you give us more information? Sounds like you are eager to learn and you're ready to jump in. That's great.
Yeah. Yes, that's really a lot. Yes.
So another thing that I want, writing content. Okay. So another thing I want to let you know is that we do have some door prizes available, and James and I are paying attention to who's interacting with us, and we are going to give out participation door prizes. So if you want a door prize, make sure that you participate. And the door prizes, I don't know if James is going to contribute something. He hasn't told me that yet. That's his choice. But I have a couple books that I'm going to make available. One is called 5 Steps to Outline Your Book. And that is what James downloaded, and that's why he contacted me. And then I have another book called Write from First Draft, or from book idea to first draft in 30 days. Usually I sell that for $25, but I'm going to give it as a door prize. And so if you want one of those books, participate, tell us, answer our questions, and we want this to be interactive. So thank you for the interaction so far. Another comment, I want to learn how to be consistent with my writing. I need accountability. Yes, accountability is very important. And I'll give you a simple piece of accountability. It's helpful to have other people hold you accountable, but you can also hold yourself accountable too. You can do something as simple as write out a promise to yourself. I am going to write so many words a day, or I am going to have my first draft written by, and put a date there. And then put it on your wall so that you see it every day. Hi, Brent. Really glad to see you here. And Brent says, writing a memoir is difficult because you give out your life story. Yes, memoirs can be challenging, especially if there's trauma involved. And sometimes we have to work through that trauma before we can finish writing our memoir. I didn't really understand that until about a year ago. Somebody asked me to write something about going through abuse and separation with my ex-husband. And I sat down and tried to write, and I got a few sentences written and I couldn't write anymore. And so I had to wait. It wasn't until a few months later, somebody else asked me a question and I was able to write out the story. And I didn't even realize what was happening until I had the piece written. And I was like, wow, I guess that block is gone. So we have to be patient with ourselves, especially when we are writing memoir type work. And Valerie says she wants to learn proper formatting of text and branding. Yes, there is so much that we can cover. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a couple topics that we came up with today, and then tomorrow we will try to answer some of these questions more specifically that you. Thank you so much for your input. We appreciate that. All right, so writer's block, something that a lot of people talk about, something that a lot of people struggle with. How do you overcome writer's block? Any ideas? Any experience out there? What has helped you? James, did you experience writer's block?
Yes, I had such. Actually, so sometimes we believe that writers just have it flowing, the ideas are flowing and all. But sometimes it's also important to please get to know that it's not just coming out as you probably imagine. There are seasons of your life when you would even find it hard to lift a pen because it has been said that a pen is mightier than a sword. And if a pen is mightier, you would definitely not find it easier. You find it easy every time to be carrying a pen, a pen, a pen. Well, it's already okay these days. You can pick up your phone and type. Well, it's sometimes okay that you take a break when you go through this process. When I had mine, all I do is to pack all my books and put it one time at once, put it at a place and more like go and get myself refreshed, and then I can come back to it. Then I come back with fresh idea, and that works for me. And even if you have a timeline, do well to be don't be harsh, like don't be rigid on yourself. Do well to find a way to like forgive yourself when the ideas are not coming. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Yes, sometimes there's take a look in the chat. There's a lot of good ideas being shared here. Sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves if we have a deadline or something and we sit down and nothing comes. And so sometimes we need to put it away for a while, go for a walk, come back later. So you kind of have to experiment sometimes to see what works for you. Brent suggests talking with other authors to get ideas. Valerie suggests free writes, just getting ideas out without worrying about the mechanics of language or grammar. AY says that writer's block is like having a river of ideas, but being unable to put them into writing or not knowing how to start. That's a good description. Valerie says she keeps a small notebook for ideas that come to her, like an author's journal. That's an excellent idea. I suggest every author does that. I don't know if you have watched the YouTube presentation called Homework for Life. If you haven't, look that up. And he talks about, he's actually a comedian, and he talks about why he started keeping a notebook and why everybody should keep a notebook, because we forget. We think we're going to remember, you know, when, I don't know, some of you may be parents, we think we're going to remember the funny things that our kids said and did when they're little, but if we don't write them down, we forget. So we need to keep that notebook. I'm going to do an exercise with you that I find helpful when I have writer's block, and it has to do with capturing your ideas. And it's similar to what Valerie suggested. So this is a brainstorming exercise. That's my name for it. So does everybody have a pen and paper?
Yes, I have.
James is
I have
ready.
mine.
Who else is ready?
Good.
If you're ready, say yes in the chat. Thank you, Valerie. You're ready? What about the rest of you? AY is ready. What about the rest of you? All right, I need to see more yeses in the chat. What I would like you to do is I am going to give you 2 minutes. This might not be long enough. You can tell me after 2 minutes if you need more time. But I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I want you to write everything down that you might want to write about someday. Don't filter it. Don't question yourself. Don't say, no, that's not a good idea. Just write any and every idea. There's nothing, no wrong answer here. There's nothing that should stop you. So, are you ready? I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes, and we're going to write, and then we'll come back. On your mark, get set, go, write. All right, that was 2 minutes. Was that enough time, or do you want more time? Oh, look at you, AY. Look at all those ideas. Love it. All right, anybody else want to share what ideas they came up with? I know James has lots of ideas for books.
I think we have AY shared us. Wow. Valerie has 10 ideas. Wow.
Yes.
I love that. AY has 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Similar to mine. I was able to write 5.
Yeah, I have at least 3 book ideas that are floating around in the back of my mind. I didn't write them down right now. 5 ideas. Good.
Moni has 5.
I can share mine, but I can't write them quick enough in the chat.
Sure, go ahead, Valerie.
My life story called The Road I Travel. Climbing myself out of rape and sexual abuse. poetry, life, faith, and nature-based, short story collection of anecdotes from my life, a sitcom script about getting old but not dead, self-help, depression, cookbooks, and an anthology for new unpublished authors, a place for them to get a start.
Love it. Yes. Anthologies are a great way to get a start. And I'm actually, maybe now I will share, I am working with Maria, who lives in Texas. She's originally from Zimbabwe, and she and I are working on some projects this year. So if any of you are interested in participating in an anthology, please reach out and let me know. The first anthology is closed. The second one that we're working on is stories of survivors. So if you have been through abuse and are on the other side of that, feel free to connect with me and I will send you the submission guidelines. We'll also be sharing stories of people coming from other countries to North America and what that transition is like. So if that's something that you want to write about, feel free. Yeah, so contact me or contact Valerie. She wants to put together an anthology as well. Mercy wants to write about her growing up, her struggles, growing up with a foster parent, writing about relationships, the struggles of being a single. Those all sound like great ideas, Mercy. Valerie, was there something that you wanted to say? Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
No, my smartphone is not letting me see the screen. I'm sorry if I hit a button.
Oh, no problem.
But yes, I'm interested.
Okay. All right. So this is an exercise that I encourage you to do on a regular basis. If you're like me, I find that our brains get full of ideas and sometimes we can't write. We get that writer's block because we feel like we're going to forget something and we're going to miss out on sharing that good idea that we have. And so if you do this exercise regularly, you will have an opportunity to clear your brain, clear your thinking, and then you will also be able to get past that writer's block and you will have lots of ideas to write about. So this is the process I usually follow. Gather your materials like we just did, write without filtering, and maybe you want to write for 5 or 10 minutes. And instead of like general ideas, think about specific stories from your life. If you want to write about your life, think about anecdotes, people that you've met, all kinds of things, and just jot them down, because after you write, you can sort your ideas into groups that will fit together into a book, and you can continue to keep your ideas that way. Looks like we lost James, but we'll go ahead here. So James is going to share about gaining clarity about your writing when he gets back. But for now, I'm going to jump to this next topic, which is why and how to aim before you write. And I share this because a lot of people today think that if they just get their book written, it will sell. They don't have to worry about thinking about marketing. They don't want to think about marketing. Some people just want to write. But it's really important for you to aim. And what I mean by that is you need to know about your audience. You need to know what introspection about what you bring to the table. And M is marketing. So let's talk about those 3 things. So feel free to jot ideas down or share them in the chat. Who are you writing for? Tell me, how old are they? What is their personality? What kind of family do they belong to? Mercy mentioned growing up in a foster family. Are they foster kids? Are you writing for other foster kids? Are you writing for the parents of the foster kids? What is their education level? What beliefs do they have? So I challenge you to take some really quality time to answer these questions about who you're writing to. Maybe you're writing a children's book. Valerie has some children's books that she wants to publish. Maybe you're writing to people who are old like me and have grandchildren. Maybe you're writing for somebody who's going to university. I know James has done a lot of work with other students because he knows what it's like to come into university and not know where to go or what to do. Just going to see what's going on with James. All right, then think about their pain points. So what problems are you going to address? What persistent problems does that person struggle with? What fears do they have? What frustrations do they have? Those are going to give you clues as to what you should address in your book. Because people usually look for books, they look for answers. And as the author, think about what you want to, what kind of action do you want your readers to take after they have read your book? Do you want them to laugh and cry? Do you want them to be inspired? Do you want them to change their perspective about something? Do you want them to be able to publish a book? Do you want them to be able to raise a child that is healthy? What are your goals in writing your book? And they should be attached, they should relate to the pain points of who you're writing for. And then think about where you're going to find these people, because it's helpful to have some conversations with people as you're writing your book. Maybe you can meet with them in person. Maybe you go to the same school. Maybe you have the same hobbies. Maybe you go to the same stores. Maybe you talk to them online on Twitter or Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok. So all of those things are important to know, because when it comes to marketing, you're again going to want to go where your audience is. Does anybody want to share about who they are going to write for? Valerie, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Children 0 to 10 years and up to 6th grade, morals, personality, behaviors, on process of learning, poetry, pretty much young adult and up, self-help 14 to seniors. And a bulk of my career was middle school. And you really have to love that age group. But middle school stories that gain from their perspective, their fears, frustrations, their journey through life, identifying the growth that happens from 6th grade to 8th grade is probably one of the biggest areas of growth in someone's life. You're framing them for their future. Not quite set because college is ahead, but it's like a gateway, it's a gatekeeper to reach that audience before it's too late. So developing books, stories, whatever for that age group to continue the love of reading that seems to fall off from elementary to middle school, right on up to high school grades, to help motivate them to be an engaged reader and interact. I would really like to reach that audience.
Great, thanks for sharing. Moinoloa, sorry if I am not saying your name right. I'll call you Mo if that's okay. Want to write for students of the Nigerian Law School and the challenges you faced. So that's great. Often we do write for people that are going through something that we went through. So I could write about what it's like to be an adoptive parent. I could write about going through abuse and surviving that. And Valerie and I have that in common. I could write about parenting. I could write about writing and publishing, which I have written about. So lots of things that we can write about based on experiences that we've had. So audience is the first thing that you need to think about. Now, I want you to take a few minutes. I'm going to ask you to grab your pen and paper again. I'm going to give you 2 minutes again. And I want you to write down all the experiences that you've had in your life. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, that's 2 minutes. So one of the experiences I had when I was 9 years old was I traveled by train from Botswana to Zimbabwe, 500 miles by train one way. And I attended school in Zimbabwe for 3 months at a time, away from my parents for 3 months, and then home for a month and back for 3 months, did that for a year. So that's something that I could write about. Mo says they have 13 experiences. Who else wants to share? Mo, do you want to share any of your experiences?
I can share.
Okay, go ahead, Valerie.
Rebirth as a Christian at age 5, growing up in the country, being one of 6 siblings, death 3 times, attempted murder on me, 3 times, clinical depression, traveling abroad at 16 to Spain, and now as an adult, traveling from the age of 5 to 25 in our family camping club. My father put me in a beauty contest, starring in plays or being the makeup and costume and dance choreographer. Adult travel now as a travel agency owner. Adult education, shifting my career from in the classroom to training teachers how to teach what they don't learn in college. The trials and tribulations of a reading specialist. State Department of Ed curricular. An adult teacher teaching adults in college their second chance. Swimming and sports, baseball, field and track. My college experiences, first on my own, paying myself as a young student, and then switching careers in my 40s and going back in ABD on teacher leadership, and just how to switch careers from one area, retail, back into education, and the crossover teaching in a different way from retail to the public service area.
Wow, those are lots of experiences. So do you see how detailed you can get when you're writing? You can think about all kinds of things that you could write about because of those experiences. You can think about the people that you can relate to because of those experiences. Mo also shared some things in the chat. A breakup, second week into law school. That's challenging. I mean, starting law school is a challenge in itself, and then having the breakup on top of that, and then psychosis and a near relapse. So that's difficult to deal with, but you have persevered and you're on the other side, and so you can help. You understand what it feels like to go through that psychosis. You understand what helped you, so you can share those ideas, and you can also share what prevented you from having a relapse. So those are very valuable things that you can share with people that I can't share because I haven't experienced what you have. Anybody else want to share anything that they wrote down? What is your experience? What is your expertise that you can share? Why are you the best person to write the book that you're thinking about writing? Because especially if you're going to look for a traditional publisher, that's one question they're going to ask you. And I encourage everybody, whether you're going to be traditionally published or self-published, to answer that question. You need to be clear about why you are the best person to write the book. Who are you? What have you experienced? What do you have to offer people who haven't gone through what you've gone through? All right. Is everybody still awake? Put "I'm awake" in the chat if you're still following here with me. All I can see is names, so I don't know. I can't see your faces. Mo's awake. Valerie's awake. AY's awake. Yes, good. I'm glad James is still awake. He was talking to me at 2 o'clock in the morning the other day, and I was asking him how come he was awake. All right, so here are some specific questions to think about. How can your experience help other people? These are reasons people should read your book. How does your training add to your expertise? Maybe you, like Mo, went to law school, so I don't know, they have expertise around law, and who has already benefited from what you're sharing. So this morning, James gave me a wonderful endorsement. Thank you, Mo. for letting me know that you're a she. So Mo is a lawyer. And Mo, what is your expertise in law? Because I know that lawyers study lots of things, but usually lawyers specialize. So what is your specialty as a lawyer? All right, so we are going to, after you think about the I, who you are, the M is the market. What is currently available? So what I encourage you to do, Mo said she wants to specialize in international refugee law and human rights. That's a very important area. And I know that you will be able to do it, Mo. All right, so market research. I know that Amazon is not popular with a lot of people, but it is the place where about 60% of the books are sold today, all books. And so that is a great place to go and do your market research. Most people don't even think about going there to do research. So go on to Amazon and type in the search bar the topic that you want to write about. It could be refugee law. It could be raising kids. It could be how to publish a book. It could be psychosis. It could be just going back, what it's like to, it could be foster parenting, or being a foster child. It could be about being single. It could be about marriage. It could be about family life. It could be a love story, and that could be either nonfiction or fiction. It could be living your life on purpose. It could be what it's like to be a minister or a pastor. It could be about your experience in school. So type those into go onto Amazon and type those topics in and see what comes up. And Amazon, when you start typing, I don't know if you've noticed, or keyboarding, or whatever you do, I don't know if you've noticed, when you're on Amazon and you start typing something in the search, it will populate what people have been searching for. So I don't know if you realize that that's what's happening. It's telling you these are topics that people are searching for, and these are the words that they're using to search. So those are things to pay attention to when you're doing your market research. After you look up a topic, then go and look and see what is selling. And maybe the topic you want to write about, so let's say love, could be, like I said, nonfiction. It could be your true story, or you could fictionalize what happened to you and write a romance book, for instance. When I published my devotional book, I did research because I was trying to decide whether I wanted to write the material as a Bible study or whether I wanted to write it as a devotional. And when I did the research, I noticed that Bible studies were not selling well, whereas devotionals are quite popular. And so I thought, well, if I want my material to get into people's hands, I need to present it in a format that people are looking for. And so I chose to write it as a devotional. Look at the keywords. So that's, again, what Amazon is giving you when you do your market research. There's also tools you can use to find keywords. And then categories. So when you bring up a book on Amazon, it will tell you the book is ranking number, let's say, 5,000 in Christian living, or 5,000 in law, or whatever. It'll tell you the categories that the book is in. And that's important when you come to publish, because you need to enter keywords and categories if you're self-publishing, and you can do that on Amazon. So James sent me a direct message. He said he did research and found out there's little or no books written about an aspect that he wants to work on. So James, that can be a challenge, because that may mean that nobody's looking for the material that you want to share. So what I would encourage you to do if that happens is I would encourage you to go to people that you think would benefit from the book you want to write and ask them questions. And maybe you're just thinking about your topic from a different perspective, and you need a fresh perspective that will make it more appealing to the people that you want to reach. But I'm glad that you're doing that research now, because you don't want to waste your time writing a book and then find out that nobody wants to buy it. So you do need to find out what is selling. Reviews can be very helpful as well, because then you can find out what people like and don't like about the books that are already written. And if somebody says that sometimes in the reviews, if you look at the 1- and 2-star reviews, you can find topics that people will share their frustrations, and they'll say, I wish that this book had been written in this way, or I was looking for this and I didn't find it. I really want to learn about this. So sometimes you can get some good ideas about how to add to the information that's out there and how to make your book unique by reading those reviews. And then again, find out what is not selling and try to figure out why it's not selling. Is it a bad cover? Does it not have reviews? Is it the way the content was approached? Is it the content that was shared? So all of this is important to know before you write your book. All right. Any comments or questions about those 3 areas? Aiming before you write your book. I think, James, I will hand it back to you now. And were you going to talk about, let me see. Gaining clarity about your writing? Or were you going to talk about something else?
Yes, gaining clarity will be a nice one for me to talk about. Thank you.
All right. And then we're going to go to that now. Then when James is done with that, we are going to open for questions. So while James is talking, feel free to think about what your questions are, and we will have time for questions after. Go ahead, James.
All right, thanks so much, Ruth, for the session so far. And please do not forget that we have amazing prizes for people who actively participate. And you would actually do yourself a big favor if you attempt all quiz and all questions that are being asked. Do well to also gather your questions, get them set, or you can also request for the mic by raising your hand so we can tell you to go ahead. So gaining clarity is very important. So one thing that really helped me from the point of ideation to the point of final execution of the project, and that is the point of launching, which we are still definitely going to talk about, is the fact that I gain clarity through a call. So having a call, booking a call with a coach, with someone who has done something before, just like I said earlier, is very important to the success of anything you are doing in the world. So take, for example, I being someone who wants to actually write a book. I don't know what it takes to write a book. And my question is, how do I write my first book? That's the question that people are having. According to research, I think less than 6% or about 8% of people who start the book actually finish it. And that's to say that from the high percent of people who actually have an idea, and then it gets lower. And you know what? They decided and said, okay, so my first book will be on maternity and the experience. I don't know what that is, I can't explain that. Probably that.
I'm not hearing anything.
All right. Sorry, I had to step away for a few minutes. Mercy has a question. Asking your target audience where we really meet. Okay, so I'm assuming you're wondering how to meet with those people that you're writing for. Is that what your question is, Mercy? All right. So that's a really good question. You may be able to meet with some of your target audience in person, and if you can, then that's a great thing to do. I don't know what audience you have online. I don't know if you're on social media or if you have an email where you connect with people. Maybe you can help me out. Are you on any social media sites? Feel free to unmute yourself and come chat with me. Okay, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. So is your target audience on those sites? Yes, you could use a survey, but you have to know how to reach your people with your survey. Having a survey is only going to help if people take the survey. All right, so Mercy says she's not sure whether the people that she's trying to reach are on the social media sites that she's on. So that's good to know. So Mercy, what you could do is you could do some research on the demographics of people that are on those sites. So for instance, I happen to know that on Facebook, the majority of the people that are on Facebook are my age. So I don't know if you're writing to an audience that includes people who are my age. If you're looking for younger people, you probably want to use Instagram. That's a really good place for younger people. WhatsApp, I don't know what the demographics are there. I'm on WhatsApp, but I know that younger people use it as well. So you may want to do some research and find out which social media site. James is Bach.
All right, thank you so much. I'm sorry about that. It's actually a little glitch. Yes, as I was saying that for me, I may not be able to share a story about how maternity experience is, but I can relate with just a few experiences that I see that people go through. So you could actually come up with that story, but then you feel like, how do I go about this? So the question how would not be answered until you have gained clarity, either through someone or through a resource that actually focus on giving solution to that challenge. Not just in that area. It could be in an area where you feel like, oh, I want to write my first book. This is an area I have interest in writing about. And it can be as little as being asked a question, what are the 10 things you would like to write about? What are the 3 important things you would like to write about based on your experiences, based on the exposure you've had, based on the interaction you've had with people, or based on what you believe that you are actually passionate about. So all of this would not actually yield enough results if you don't reach out to people who are actually sure and they've done it over time. So for me, I would say that to gain clarity, do well to reach out to people who have done it before. You have seen results with through what they've done and what they are doing, and you can replicate that. Success has a formula, and the formula is that when you learn from people who have actually done something before, you can definitely have success as well, though not their own results, but the rate of failure will not be at as high as when you go ahead and keep trying. Everybody wants to go on YouTube and get the whole resources and put up the book. It doesn't work that way. Until I digged my feet into the river, I never knew how deep the river is. So I actually believe that you need to like gain clarity, reach out to people, book the call, have the conversation around it, and be open, be willing and be ready to learn. Because during the clarity session, during the process of gaining clarity, you'll be having ideas, you'll be having thoughts that you yourself never imagined. Why? Because the person you are on the call with for clarity will guide you through the path he or she has gone through. Let's say, for example, Ruth has done it over and over again, and having the call with her was a really interesting opportunity for me. Why? Because it helped me and it also catalyzed the process for me in actualizing the goal of actually publishing my first book. And then I went through the process. It's beyond just writing and then you want to like, oh, let me go ahead and let me just put it on Amazon. No, it's beyond that. She mentioned the process of you editing, the process of you publishing. The publishing has different aspects. You need to gain clarity and be sure which path you want to follow. Until I had a conversation with Ruth, I never knew that some things will actually require me to spend more. So you won't know how much investment you need to make in writing a very professional book that people would see and look like, wow, so you did this, how? All can just be traced down to the fact that you allow somebody who has done before to help you. To gain clarity, I would say that you should look for people who have done it before, learn from them, try as much as possible to gain access. When you gain the access, don't ever underestimate or underrate what they do. Fine, they might have mistakes, fine, you might observe one or two, but don't let the access that you are giving to become something that you abuse. Secondly, I would say that when you are on the clarity call, be as vulnerable as possible. Don't be who you are not. Don't claim to be who you are yet to be, because in gaining clarity, you have to come as you are. That is the best I would recommend. Come as you are. Don't say, oh, I have these big ideas, it's going to sell, is this and that. If your mentor or your coach asks you a question, respond to the question so that you yourself would go back and think about that and come back again. So during the process of clarity, when you're asked question, do well to work with your notes and your pen, because it's very important. Jotting down the questions that are being asked, if the meeting is not recorded, is very important. And it's not even necessary for you to ask for recording. What you write down, you can easily process, and you can always think about it over time. So what I would say is, when you think it, you should ink it. So you could see that the process, the word is actually embedded in together. The word think, and the last three letters there says ink. Whatever you think, you should ink. So if you think it, you should also ink it. Don't let it be, oh, your coach is telling you and then you are not writing it down. And also, I would say that you should try as much as possible to give a feedback. Okay, we are working on a timeline. In 3 months, I should be done with my first book. And sincerely, in 3 months, I was done with the first book. And not just that, I gave it enough time to do publication. I did publicity. I mean, I published more, writing about the book. Don't be shy about your book. And until you join the call for clarity, you would not know about all this. So I gained clarity about this. I got to know process. I got to know systems. I got to know ways in which I can put my books. Until I joined the clarity call, I never knew that I myself could sell over 300 copies of my book. I mean, hard copy, within the shortest time of 4 months. I think 4 months is even too much. Then the process I went through was actually not so smooth, but it was this bittersweet experience. That experience that you would always be glad that you went through it. And leveraging opportunities are available. You won't know the opportunities until you have a clarity session with someone who has done it before, take you through that process. So do well to book a clarity call. Do well to ask questions that will make the coach or the mentor to see that truly you are ready and prepared for the tasks ahead. Writing a book requires you to put in the time. It requires you to put in the effort. It requires you to also invest your resources. Whatever is whatever is worth doing is what's doing well. So you should make sure that you put in the best that you need. Fine, you can publish for free, but then you need to publish what you can look at in 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years, in a century that can still impact people. Let's take, for example, during the clarity call, I got to think about what things I could actually solve. Clarity session helps your thinking. It helps you on what not to think and what to think. Imagine I want to say that I want to print 10,000 copies of my book, and the goal is to reach out to as many people across the globe. That is vague. That is totally vague, because you don't have a precise, a clear, specific goal. So during the clarity session, you would actually walk through the SMART acronym of being specific, of being measurable, of being achievable, of being realistic, of being time-bound. If you don't go through this clarity call, you won't actually be able to get the real question and get the real answer to those questions. So the questions of why, how, when, what, who are very, very vital, because the WH questions would actually bring out the creativity and imaginative thinking that you have. So at this point, I'm going to end, and I do hope you're going to join tomorrow. We're going to talk more about other aspects. I would like to hand over to Ruth to talk more and give 1 or 2 points, and then we have our questions. And before then, I would like to tell you about few of the opportunities that we have. So we understand that after this session, you definitely need to grow in terms of getting how do you go from where you are right now to what you want to be. So Ruth is willing to give a very amazing discount for everyone, which is going to be announcing. And for people who are also joining from Nigeria, I also have an amazing offer for you, which I believe people who are willing and ready to take action would actually take advantage of it. So do well to stay to the end. And please, before we end the call, I'm going to also come on board to tell you about the offer I'll be giving to Nigerian audience, and also for everyone who actually desire to bet their bestseller this year. And we hope that you're going to publish the best and also publish like a pro. And we would actually be glad to see your best book and also to talk about it, to work with you. Thank you very much. And over to you, Ruth.
All right, James, thank you. So if you have questions that you have right now, feel free to raise your hand, or put them in the chat so that we can answer them. Thank you to each of you for coming today. I know some of the emails were a little bit confusing as far as time. So I'm glad that you figured out when we were starting and you made it here today. And before I forget, James has convinced me that we need to start tomorrow at a couple hours earlier. So for those of us in North America, that's going to be earlier in the morning. For those of you in Nigeria, it'll be earlier in the afternoon. We are going to start 2 hours earlier than we started today. So make note of that and make sure that you are ready to join us. So it's 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Mountain Standard. Valerie, I'm not sure what time zone you're in. You can let me know. And in Nigeria, I believe it's going to be 2 p.m. Is that correct, James? Valerie's in Eastern time, so it'll be 9 a.m. Eastern for you tomorrow that we're starting. And the link will be the same link as we used today. So make sure that you have access to that. I tried to send out an extra email this morning and it didn't seem to go out. So I'll try again and see if that will work. Technology is wonderful when it works, and sometimes it doesn't work so well. So we will work around what we have to work around and make sure that it happens. And James is having technology problems. I'm glad the email worked for you, Valerie. All right. So I know that some of you said that tomorrow. Okay, so the book's about writing. I can send you a list of what I have available. And if you want to purchase some of them, you can do that. We will be giving some away as store prizes. So just be aware of I'll send the book titles to everybody that registered for this session. And that way everybody will have. And then if you want to purchase something, you're free to do that. Okay. So tomorrow, I think what I'm going to make sure that I cover is the process of going from book idea, like we talked about ideas today. So what do you do with that idea? How do you get it so that you can write it? And then what are the steps to publishing? So we'll cover that tomorrow. And I think James, yes, I can get the slides. I'll make a note of that to send out the slides and book list to everyone. James, I think I'm going to ask you to talk about how you got your book written so quickly, because not everybody gets it done that fast. I'm glad that you have found this helpful. I'm seeing the comments in the chat. Yeah, so we'll talk about the steps to editing and publishing, the cost of publishing. Formatting will be, I'll just touch on that briefly. James will share some writing tips, and maybe we can talk about it, James, whether we want to address branding or not. But those are some questions that have come up. Before we leave, let's just chat a little bit. Yes, Valerie, I agree. That's a very good way for some people to write. I call it speaking your book. Using audio and recording the books. So Valerie says that she records her books on her smartphone and then transcribes them. So that's a great way to get your book written quickly, because we can actually speak faster than we can write. However, you have to be aware that you use a different part of your brain when you speak compared to when you write. And so some people really struggle. They cannot speak their book. Other people prefer to use pen and paper, and that's how they think through things the best. So you have to try different ways and see what works best for you. And yes, editing is always important. No matter how good you are at writing, you always need an editor. So we'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. Somebody asked about writing compelling stories. So what makes a story interesting to you? What keeps you reading? Let's chat about that for a few minutes, and then if anybody has questions, we will take those questions, and then we'll close off for today. So what makes writing interesting? What makes a story interesting? Any ideas? Usually there's a hook, right? What do we mean by a hook? Something, a statement or a question or something that draws us in. And yes, it needs to be relatable, something that we can relate to. Imagery is part of it, part of a good story. Emotional connections. I'm glad you came up with that, Mo, because there's a quote that says, if the writer cries, the reader will also cry. And emotions are a very big part of how we communicate. So I'm going to give you an example of a story that I share sometimes, and it comes from my years in Africa. We used to meet under a large tree for our church services because we did not have a church building. And I don't know if you've ever experienced a thunderstorm in Africa. So those of you who live in Nigeria definitely have, but they are very intense. Lightning, thunder, it's noisy, it's bright. And there was a huge thunderstorm, and the tree was struck by lightning. And those of you who live in Nigeria will understand this comment. After the storm, people came to my dad and said, we need to stop meeting under that tree. The spirits are angry and they're going to hurt us if we keep meeting there. And my dad said, stop. We serve the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He is more powerful than any of the spirits that you experience here in your country. We need to stand firm. Ephesians 6 talks about standing firm, right? Putting on the armor of God, taking the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the sword of the Spirit, the shield of faith. And we need to stand firm. We need to continue meeting under this tree. We need to continue having our church services. And that's exactly what happened. We continued to meet under the tree. Nobody died. Nobody got sick. God is powerful, more powerful than any evil spirits. And sometimes as believers, we don't take the authority. We don't stand in the authority that Jesus Christ gives to us. So Mo says she could imagine the branches of the tree moving. As I was telling that story, what did you relate to? What drew you in? What kept your attention? Any other feedback? Lightning, thunder. So often what keeps us reading, what keeps us interested in a story is conflict. And that conflict can be external, the lightning and the thunder, the clash between God and the evil spirits, the fear and the faith. So it can be external or it can be internal. People were struggling. The fear and the faith were struggling internally in these people. Externally, we could see the storm, but there was also a storm internally. The conflict. Valerie, did you have something that you wanted to add?
No.
No? Okay. So I don't know if that's helpful. I'm scrolling back to see who asked that question.
Someone was asking about imagery, what I meant by that. When you're writing, you need to write the way you want the reader to see it. So you want to use, descriptives, color. You tap into your 5 senses to help build the vision that you want them to see in your writing.
Yeah. Thank you, Valerie. Yes. So think about what you saw, or what, if you're writing from third person, what is the person seeing? What are they feeling? Like feeling the wind, feeling the lightning, hearing the thunder, hearing the people saying, no, we can't meet here. Feeling, what does it feel like when you're fearful? What happens in your body? Can you describe that so that your reader can experience that fear with you? What does it feel like when you're angry? So when I said angry, what did I do with my body to express anger? You need to describe that in your writing. And here's a tip that was shared with me. After you write your pages or paragraphs, go back with highlighters, 5 different colors of highlighters, and use a different color for each sense. Highlight the words that describe what you're seeing in one color, let's say blue. Highlight what you're feeling in a different color. Highlight what you're thinking in a different color. Highlight what you're, use a different color for each sense. And then you can see, oh, I haven't written anything about what it smelled like, or I haven't said what it tastes like, because we can sometimes taste our emotions too, right? That the metallic taste of fear. So those are some tips for those of you that are working on writing a more interesting story. Any other questions that anybody has? Or any comments anybody wants to make?
Are these